let's talk about what happens in the event that, maybe you do hire a contractor and you find out that some of this stuff has been done. So what you'll end up with is in Google Search Console, you'll see very visible alerts that you have basically bad links. And what these often look like, they're rings of sites that just contain like pages full of keywords and cloned copies of blog posts and comments. In the comment section of sites, there'll just be like links to various places. And it basically is a tangled web of an attempt to game the SEO system. It's all of these sites linking to each other. Some of these like black hat companies, they'll just own a bunch of domains and deploy a bunch of WordPress sites, and they will look like there's sort of content there, but the only purpose they serve is to try to build a little credibility and then lend it out, or to try to be like those 100 purple circles that all point to a single entity to try to boost its credibility. Oftentimes, very often, these nests will be identified and they will be penalized, and anything they link to will be penalized. So you are responsible, like when black hat efforts happen and they refer to your site, the assumption is that the business owner or someone associated with that made it happen. So you need to take responsibility for cleaning up these bad links. The first thing you should try to do is reach out to the owners of these sites and see if you can get your link taken down. If you get no response, or if this strategy doesn't play out, you can use Google's Disavow tool, which is where you basically formally say, when you're building the edges in this graph that connects all of our sites, like this is not an intentional edge. This was not something that I wanted, something that I asked for, and please remove it from consideration when evaluating the weight of my site. Otherwise, like when these circles of like self-linking black hat SEO sites, when that gets taken down, your site's going to get dragged down with it. I mentioned earlier about like trading links with vendors and stuff. So when we talk about referring to a vendor, one link is fine. Setting up an arrangement where you all like make 100 links to each other's site, that will be detected quickly, and you will be penalized in the same way as like these self-linking black hat SEO sites would be penalized. So the idea is like you can't like lending a whole bunch of credibility back and forth. That is not going to be effective. If you do need to link to someone's site very, very often, make sure that in your A tag you add rel equals nofollow. And this is an instruction to the web crawlers that they should basically disregard this as you lending credibility to the other site. So the site will still get crawled, right? They'll still traverse it. You'll still get an alert if the link ends up being broken, but you're basically saying like, this is not an endorsement, right? This is just like, don't read this when you're calculating the page rank. And dead links are easier than ever to remove from your site. They show up in, if you set Google Webmaster Tools up to send you periodic reports of any kind, this is the kind of alert that you can't even turn off, right? It'll tell you that here are broken links, we discovered these, and you should fix those as soon as possible, because letting those linger indicates that your site is not maintained and up to date, and you will, other people will leapfrog you due to the recency bias we discussed earlier. So let's talk a little bit about ads. So this is an area I have very direct experience with, having built several products for Yahoo that are in the ad space. Ads are a tool that pretty much every business should use. Yes?
Just before we get too
Yep.
far ahead, Nikita asked why Google says to use Disavow only if everything else fails.
So Google says use Disavow only if everything else fails, because they don't want their system to be choked in all likelihood, right? And oftentimes when you end up with these links, there are a lot of them, and they're the result of some like consultant who owns this like spam ring of placing them there, and they basically want you to take it up with them first and to use them as a last resort. And when it's not easy to submit a disavow request, like you have to basically like affirm that, you know, this was not me, I do not own this site, and they kind of, you know, they make it a last resort kind of process there. It's not a really easy automated tool. It is sending a list for submission and it'll get approved later on. So their hope is you don't have to do that.
Is that method of could you use it to tank a competitor? Is it like used in that sense? Ever where if the domain owner is responsible, then you could set up bad links to their.
Yeah, people have done that, and people have.
You totally could. I mean, that's like a despicable thing
I used to go to
do.
SEO.
Like,
Yeah, I used to go to SEO conferences, and they would share stories about all this black hat stuff, where they'd get sites taken down and blacklisted, and it would be like months before they'd come up and running as they appealed to Google. And
Yep.
I mean, it's a constant battle out there.
It is. And the same goes for reviews, by the way.
Right.
Like all the time. I mean, you see app reviews that come out. Like if you want to see some interesting reviews, go look at the mobile app for any cable news site. And like, you've got big spikes at 1 star and 5 star from like, so like there is bias and there is sort of behavior that is sort of coming from competitors. The thing you can do about that is to pay attention to it and to try to head it off as soon as you can. There are firms that exist for the purpose of repairing, you know, reputation. I haven't worked with any of them personally, so I'm not going to like name them or say that it's a good idea to hire one in particular, but it's a thing, right? It is the online equivalent of throwing a brick through your competitor's window.
Yeah.
So, also not a good idea.
Just like security, you have to kind of understand the attack trajectories and then try to figure out how you can mitigate them if they do happen. It's the same with search
Yeah.
and reviews and stuff like that.
The hope is that by the time you're on your competitor's radar, you've built up enough of a reputation that that hit is not going to take you completely out. And this is why this is a good reason to start early, right? So like before you're even on the radar of people, like you've reached out, their customers have heard about you before your competitors heard about you.
One thing to add with that is transparency as well. I mean, a lot of case studies where if your competitors are attacking your website and writing false reviews, then to actually respond to that. You have that feature even on Google Maps where you can respond and say, this was not accurate, or, you know, we've tried to locate this customer, but they never shopped and they weren't on our record. And I think a lot of it's about that communication as well, so that when others see it, they can note you have responded correctly to it.
That's a great point. Yeah, you know, there's nothing that more easily diffuses an angry customer than that, you know, calm, helpful, and polite response saying like, here's our support number. I'm waiting by the phone right now to, you know, and even if you think it's malicious, you know, that's a good thing. You can.
Couldn't that go the other way though? I mean, if you've got like a psychopath on Yelp who's like they didn't serve me, and it's like, are you really gonna bother responding to that?
I would.
Yeah.
I would. I think the thing. So what you have to remember there is you have to be objective driven, and you have to. It's not really about the principle of whether this person was correct or not. It's about whether your response to that person will take the sharp edge off of the way that looks if a stranger came by and saw it on the site.
Okay, that makes sense.
Right.
You're not responding to him. You're responding to the person that's coming later to read it.
It's about your business's reputation, and that is like a quantifiable thing, and what you do should be oriented towards that. So like go scream into a pillow and then write the response, because like just that's what it's all about. A new customer comes by, they can either see that with no response whatsoever, and gosh, maybe responses to other feedback, and they're like, huh, they responded to the thing about like I found a fly in my soup, but not this one here, and like it would look odd to their eyes. Yeah. There's a way that a lens through which they could see that would make them not do business with you. So you just want to diffuse that, and that's the only objective.